let's talk a little bit about The Bachelor and what's going on this season. Of course, Matt James is The Bachelor this year. He's the
Is he
first
the first black guy?
first black guy.
He is.
He's
mixed.
race.
He's like
he's
your
mixed
boy.
race, but he's black.
So he's
Part of
like
mixed
black
gang.
asterisk.
He's black.
He's part of
But
the
I'm
mixed.
saying, but all right, listen.
He's mixed race, but he's clearly a black guy.
No, I'm
Part
not
of the
saying
mixed
he's not.
race
All right,
gang.
I'm not gonna
Well,
go.
yeah, there would definitely be a different reaction if I were on there and they put me.
If
as the
Danny
first
was on,
black
people
bachelor.
like he's not.
Doesn't count. Not having it.
No. He's Puerto Rican.
I'd like to
Get
announce
outta here.
I'd like to announce to the listeners I'm still here, but I have backed out of this conversation.
He's letting 3 black guys talk about this. Smart.
You guys
He's a
take it
smart
from me.
man. He's a smart man.
Hey, what's happening, listeners? Welcome back to the Binge Society podcast, the podcast where nothing is in moderation. And my name is Winston Brewington.
My name is Danny Bachelor Nation Bronner.
Yeah, and I'm Yemi Comedy. My mic wasn't on. You know what time it is. We've done this before, and we got a special guest that I must introduce. Welcome to the pod, the commentator, podcaster, and dating guru you've heard on J Train podcast or on the dating podcast, You Up. Jared Freid is a comedian I've crossed paths with 10 years ago. God damn, I'm old. Since then, has skyrocketed into the comedy sphere and has been featured on True TV's NFL Full Contact, MTV's Philosophy, and Gotham Comedy Live on Access TV. Holy shit, there's more credits in this binge bag. Is a paid regular at the Comedy Cellar. Has written for Total Frat Move, Bro Bible, Betches, Love This, and He Texted. You can download his comedy album, Mama Bear, available on Spotify, Apple Music, and iHeartRadio, or check out his live Bachelor Rose rehash on YouTube. Welcome, the behemoth of all bros, the Adonis of all dudes. Our special guest joins the society as a special binge. Welcome, Jared Freid.
Wow, what an intro. That was like, did my mom write that? That was unbelievable. That was really too much.
I was trying to get that in one breath. Special guest, man. We had to do it. I had to do some research, man. You big
my. This is way too kind. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming, man.
So we have a jam-packed episode for you. We're going to be obviously talking about Jared's comedy career. We're going to be checking in with him. We have some listener questions, fans of yours, Jared, whether they're your mom or not. I'm not so sure. We're going to find out.
Okay.
And we have a binge of the week of sorts in the form of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, which Jared has been on the Instagrams doing lots of funny posts and reactions, live reactions, funny stuff there. And my God, did we watch a lot of hours of this show. So holy shit, it's time to actually make it worth it and talk about it with our dear friend Jared here. But not before we just check in and see how the old boy is doing. So Winston, why don't you take it away?
Yeah. So, Jared, thank you again for coming on the show. Tell us about, how you've been, how you survived 2020, and, just some of the things that you did to survive, some shows you might have binged on the side, and things like that.
I survived. I love like reality TV, and like the problem with 2020 is like, you could feel the place is like running out of episodes. Like, like I like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, like they couldn't do The Bachelorette unless, like they could do it in a safe place. So you're like there's like a piece of you that's like, oh shit, like they better be able to have this show happen or I'm gonna have nothing to watch. Like, remember when like Tiger King and like with The Last Dance, like watching those, you're going, oh, it was almost like you were sucking on it, like it was like a lollipop you didn't want to go away. And so like I love reality TV. So then like so at the beginning, Tiger King, Last Dance, all that stuff, and then Bachelorette was coming, so I was happy that was coming. So they did actually, for The Bachelor, they did best ofs where they did the whole season in 2 hours. So then I was like rewatching like best ofs of The Bachelor and Bachelorette. And then I got into Survivor at one point. Like I was like, I was like, I gotta watch old seasons of Survivor. They're all on Hulu. And I was like, okay, this is a good 2 months I got here. And so I started getting into that a little bit. And
There's like a backlog of like 77 seasons or so, I imagine.
it's so many seasons. You're like, I can't believe. And then like you go and look up, you're like, which are the best seasons? There's like 30 lists like telling you which are the best. And I went back and I probably watched 5 seasons of Survivor at this point. So again, I leaned into reality TV and more shows like that, 90 Day Fiance and all that good stuff. And my other love is extreme pools with this guy Lucas Lagoon, who makes pool like
pools now?
Huge pools. And this guy, they're extreme, huge. And it's like I'm obsessed with watching these people turn backyards into, you know, mini oases. So I'm that's been my binge society thing going on.
Binge in reality, man. That's so meta.
Yeah.
It's so meta. That is awesome, man. Well, we're glad to have you here in 2021 here on the show. And now this is the point where we move into nerdy credentials. Danny, take it away.
Yes. Of course, Jared. Yeah, thank you for being here. You are quite the accomplished comedian, what with your blue tick on Instagram and Twitter, what with all the TV credits that Yemi mentioned earlier. And
That's
of course, you are, like your boy, an alumni of the Pennsylvania State University.
That's right.
Indeed. So quite the accomplishments, but from what little I've gathered about you, it seems like you're not the type to be resting on your laurels. There are still achievements yet to attain, notches on your proverbial bedpost to etch, and chief among them, in the mind of this podcast host, as well as the tens upon tens of fans that we have amassed over the year, you are not yet an official member of the Binge Society.
Oh, no.
So, what me and my friends have concocted diligently and painstakingly, we have created an algorithm in order to determine whether or not you are indeed worthy. And it comes in the form of a questionnaire of sorts. What I'm going to do here, Jay Reezy, if I may, I'm going to present you with an interest, a nerdy interest, if you will. And then you're going to tell me the extent to which you are into that nerdy item on a scale of yay, nay, or maybe. And if you choose to elaborate to plead your case, that is also strongly encouraged.
Trying to season some fish.
Indeed. This is a little bit of it's an intense vetting process. How do you feel, Jared? Do you feel?
Let's do it. I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Okay, I like it.
Give us some money. Right. Sponsor us, man.
All right. So this segment we call Nerdy Credentials. Here we go. Jared Freid, to what extent are you into sci-fi? That is your Star Wars, your Star Trek, your Battlestar Galacticas.
I'll call Maybe.
Okay. Do elaborate.
Because I like the movies that come out. Like I'll go to any outer space movie that comes out. Like I'll go to, like I like the new Star Treks. I think those are great. I like the new Star Wars. I actually watched every episode, every Star Wars my girlfriend and I watched. We watched them all in order. I like the Marvel movies. I like when the Marvel movies go into space. I get into all that stuff, but I'm into it in a, like, this is fun. I want to see what's next. Like, I'm excited for WandaVision. Like, but I don't have like I think I got into it after childhood. So like, I'm just here to I'm here to learn. Like, I'm not in the front of like a chat room being like, but I will go look up. I have an interest in like looking up, like, where does this storyline come from? Who is this character in the canon of Marvel Universe? Like I do. So I'm not like, I'm a fan. I like watching them, but I'm not someone who's like trying to direct traffic with these worlds. I think that happens with a lot of this where someone like has ownership over Star Wars because it's from their childhood. And they're like, how could they have, oh my God, Luke used to have 3 fingers. Now he's got 12. I don't know. Like they like,
I was very
There's a black stormtrooper. Burn everybody down.
Yeah, like, this is crazy.
Damn, no black people in space. Goddamn.
It's like when they tried to have like a black, James Bond, and we were like, nah. You're like, well, who cares? You know, this.
None of this is real. Like, why are you?
Yeah,
so
this
upset?
is.
is
I
all
just want to
pretend.
see the next.
It's called
Yeah, I wanna see the-
sci-fi.
Yeah, like there's a talking parrot. Like, who cares? You know, like so I definitely I do think that like that's why I say Maybay, because I'm not like in this world trying to tell people how it should be. I'm here to learn about how it was and what it became. Like, I love when someone loves these things and then goes, well, the Guardians of the Galaxy used to be this and now it's this. And I'm like, oh, cool. Okay, good to find out, you know?
Okay, you know, I gotta say, I appreciate your humility.
That's a
I think
good
that's another notch on your nerdy credential bedpost there. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that's a yay for Jared. I'm gonna say
Okay,
that's a yay.
sure.
Sci-fi is a yay for Jared. If you're taking it that far, well beyond Maybay, and you're well on
Like,
your way, sir.
I've loved you have behind you have Baby Yoda. I've loved The Mandalorian.
Oh yeah,
but
all right, yes.
I do read an article after The Mandalorian finding out that there's like 30 other levels to this story that I had no idea about. Like, when at the, this season of The Mandalorian, they had the female Jedi who's Rosario Dawson. And I'm like, oh, she matters because of the cartoon. And I'm like, to me, that's like ridiculous. But I can respect that, like, okay, cool to find out that there's a whole world of this that I had no idea existed. And I always find out that, like, and no one wants to admit this, but like, it's always like a masturbatory thing. Like, it's always like, yeah, that's a Jedi I wanted to fuck when I was growing up. Like, like
Yeah,
that
definitely.
happened. Yeah, that happened with Suicide Squad. Like, with the Joker's girlfriend. Like, I watched Suicide Squad,
Harley
and then you
Quinn,
find
yeah.
out that like Margot Robbie's character is like a huge deal to people. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
because when you were 13, you were like, look at this hot cartoon, I guess. Like, there's
Look at this waifu. I wanna-
Exactly.
I wanna
Now
wipe
it's
off.
Yeah.
it's acceptable to be tickled
Yeah.
in your nerd taint
Yeah.
in that
you're
way.
like, make it real so it doesn't be weird anymore.
Rosario Dawson's
real,
okay.
mommy.
I can fap with impunity now.
Yeah.
I concur. I concur.
I can fap with freedom.
Freedom of judgment. All right, cool. All right, so well on your way. All right, next item, yay, nay, or maybe, excuse me, video games.
Nay. I used to be a Madden guy. I thought I was pretty good at Madden. The minute PS2 controllers switched from this thing to like a thing that like covers your both hands at once, the minute the controller is what ages you. It's not the gaming. Like, I like playing Madden, but the minute the controller changes, you have to be up for the hours of training with the new controller. So I'm 35 and my hands are used to a PS2 controller. That's what hit me right in the sweet spot of like high school gaming. The minute that changed, the minute I went to college, I found alcohol. I'm like, and then all of a sudden you get out of college, people are like, hey, are you into game? And I'm like, I don't know how to hold this controller. I'm out.
Been out of practice.
To Jared's point, yeah.
The language changed, right?
R2, R3. Once they threw an R3 in there, I'm like, all right, you guys got to calm down and relax. To be fair, to Jared's point, I was playing games the other day and I caught a cramp. And my girl was like, you need to drink more water. I was like, all right, maybe I'm too old to play. My hand was like,
You just gotta stay hydrated. I mean, you just gotta stay
dude,
hydrated.
I was like, is this onset arthritis? Like, what's going on?
It's a moment of reflection. You're like, but I am still good at sex, right?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah.
He's like, yeah, you don't want to know the answer to that.
Yeah,
Just drink
you
some
can't
water.
use a video game controller, so you're probably not good at the
They
other
do
one.
vibrate. They do vibrate.
Yeah.
So you could make good use of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
when they first started vibrating, that was like the last day of me using. Like, I was like, oh shit.
Full immersion.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, okay, so we're like 1 for 2. 1 for 2, we'll say. Okay, on to the next one. Different type of game, board games.
Nay. I have not enough patience. I told you I'm a reality TV fan.
Aaron, are you one of these dudes that like you start playing Monopoly and like once you go to jail, you're like, fuck it, and you flip over the board?
When's the end of this? I have to wait till you run out of money? Like, come on. Like, I'm a reality TV guy. So like my attention span is like 0. So no, nay on a board game. Even though I will say, like, again, we're having a party, everyone's drinking, I got this board game, it's fun, sure. But I'm not sitting at home like, I gotta figure out how to buy Park Place next time we play. Like, I would never.
Okay.
That's more me and you, Danny. Like,
Yeah.
We'll watch
Lots of late
YouTube.
nights.
We'll watch YouTube to figure out how to like play a board. It's bad, but all right.
Yeah, that's it. I'm not in that game. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Fair enough.
So moving right along, and I think you've kind of already answered this.
I think
Comics,
you did.
superheroes, MCU, DCU.
Anime.
Similarly to Star Wars.
Yay
like
on superhero stuff. Like anything superhero I'm in. I love an origin story. I like they could do Spider-Man 30 more times and I'd be in. I
think they've already done 30 times. But yeah.
31. I love Marvel. I think DC has like fucked up so many times that like, but also again, like I don't have the layered knowledge that a lot of these like super fans have. So like, but I go see a DC movie and I'm like I watched Wonder Woman 2. Wonder Woman 2 was like horrible. Like, and
thank God you said that.
We're recently we're working through our trauma still.
I was aghast. I was like, oh, please don't say it was good because we shitted the last episode so hard, bro.
Well, it bothered me because it gets into this like women just defending women things, and it's like, no, wouldn't you rather have like defend the good stuff? Like the equality is the equal chance to be good and bad, isn't it? Like this was a bad movie. They started with like kitschy 80s and you're like, oh, this is a new thing. And then they didn't stick with that. And then I saw this article where they're like, DC doesn't want to have a whole universe. And it's like, why not? Like, that's what everyone wants. Everyone wants these worlds to connect. They tried with like, I like the Superman origin movie. I thought that was good.
Yeah, I like
don't know why that got
the reboot of Superman was okay. Yeah, it was regular.
It was okay. I the one before that with the other dude, the one they tried where it was
I know what you're talking about. I forget the actor, but it doesn't exist in my mind.
Brandon Roth, I think, or something. I just remember that movie, like he was like holding, like pushing up on something. I was like, you could just feel the green screen. You're like, you could just see him just going, ah! And then they just, like, I hated that. But like, I thought Shazam was fucking awesome. And it's like, how did DC not just do what Marvel did and just go, we start with Shazam? Like, we start with this. This is the people liked it. The storyline was good. It brought in, again, their post-credit scenes had characters that I'd never heard of. I had to go look them up. Like, I don't think DC trusts the audience to go with them as much as Marvel does. Marvel's like, we're serving you American chop suey. You're gonna like it or you don't. And they're gonna make the best American chop suey. You might not know what that is, but you're like, oh, I'll look it up. Where did that come from? Oh, it's a food that housewives used to make back in the 60s. Like, oh, okay. I'll go with it. It is pretty good. Like, I think people did that with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. The not a very popular IP. I didn't really, as a comic book nerd from back in the day, I never really heard of them. I was like, who's this raccoon?
Yeah, like give it a shot, and we all gave it a shot, and then we were like, oh, these characters are fun. Like, and people did their own level of like I did that with Shazam. I had no idea what that character was, and then you do your own levels of research, and you come to find out like the only like they had DC could connect like all that Zeus shit that they kind of do in Shazam. I didn't know even was a part of it, but the Zeus shit is a part of Wonder Woman, and it's like, okay, now you have your thread. Like Aquaman was garbage. It just repeated the same music over and over again. And but it started so promising, and you're like, this is not a good, I don't know. It just DC, it's crazy. DC Marvel, it's crazy to me that they become this like you have to choose one or the other. I'm like, no, they do it well like they did. Like, we're all here for it.
Yeah, I want both of them to be
it's
good.
Very much Coke
it
Pepsi
can be
vibes
good
with Marvel versus like DC, and I was a DC stan from the beginning with the Michael Keaton Batman. But then,
Oh yes, yes.
once
yes.
they started throwing in Clooney, I was like, all right.
Once the nipples got involved, that was that.
I was like,
But you
all
could go,
right.
I could go back and watch fucking nipples Batman with George Clooney. There's no way you could pay me enough money to go back and watch Wonder Woman 84. Holy shit, that was weapons. Grade
What if someone
awful.
paid you $84 and they're like, watch it again?
Not worth my
I
time.
mean, the idea that everyone on
Slap
Earth
the guy
was,
like, get the fuck out of my face.
everyone on Earth took back their wish based on being asked to do so.
Oh my
What?
god!
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I guess I'll die of cancer then. Fine, Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I guess you know what? My grandmother doesn't need to live. I take back my wish. She's like, no.
Oh my god, it was a really good.
She's just like
speech.
running in the park. I got my mojo bag and it fucking croaks. Oh my gosh.
Did you hear
Terrible
the speech, Grandma? Did you hear the speech? It was pretty compelling. You
Yeah.
gotta go. All right, moving right along. Japanese anime.
Nay.
All right,
It's
that's
just
fair. Too much.
I don't get it. It seems like it
I love
seems
it. I
like
just don't get it.
no, it's all too steeped in sexuality to be.
That's the fun.
Yeah, I don't
You
know.
don't have to masturbate to it, but you can.
Someone is. I need to not know someone is.
Yeah.
I once went to Comic-Con and then they have the anime floor. They even separated the anime people from the regular gen
Like you
pop.
guys are a different type of.
Yeah,
nerd,
and you would go
yeah.
up there. The music was different. It was softer. You'd go ask people like, "Hey, what are you into?" They're like, "What?" Like it was just weird.
Are you a real woman? You're like,
Yeah. And listen, I do understand like someone like dressed as, but it's too much of a connect. There's too little. There needs to be a line of delineation between adult and child, and there's not enough there in that world.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a mismatch. It's a mishmash of both, kind of. It's like man children, women children, and then adults, and then just like this weird like vibe of like, what's
There's
that smell?
something. Yeah, listen. You can like what you like, and I could see how someone could like it without that stuff. But like from the outside looking in, it seems like there's something off.
Yeah, there definitely is. There is a lot of depression going around anime fans. Speaking from experience, a lot of shame and a lot of BO. That one I actually tackled pretty nicely. But moving on, we have just a couple more here for you. Fantasy genre, your Lord of the Rings is, your Game of Thrones is at all.
I give them all a shot. I've watched all the Lord of the Rings. I like that. I think what they do is they go too far. Like, does every one of those movies have to be 8,000 hours? Like,
I think that's in the contract, yes.
That's in the contract. Like, why? Like, Lord of the Rings, you get towards the end of it, you're like, great. Okay, they did 6 movies or however many movies it took. And then they're like, we're going to the prequels. I was like, I didn't need, no, I'm done. I've done my elf work for this week. You know, like but so like I would say a no, but I've seen them. Like I watched Harry Potter. I like that. Like I like, again, origin stories of any kind. I'm a fan of.
Okay, it
Like,
seems you're a bit hard on
like-
yourself here, Jared, which is definitely a nerdy quality. So I'm gonna say that's a maybe.
Okay, I'll give it a fine. I'll take your lead, but I liked Avatar. Like I thought Avatar was a good movie. That's kind of in that world, right? Like
Yeah.
so I do like that stuff. I like to be taken on a journey, but I think they get a little too long-winded.
I can understand that indeed. All right, this last one, we're gonna go with sports. It's possible to be nerdy for sports.
Sports ball.
Yay.
I don't know if you're
I would
just
say
a jock,
it's a yay.
Sports time.
I love sports. I like sports talk radio. So that's fantasy I play, but I'm more like, I could listen to people talk about sports. That's like my white noise machine. I could listen. That's my version of a babbling brook, is 2 people talking about like what's going on with Kyrie and what's going on. Like I like storylines more than I like games. So if that makes any sense, like I like talking about like I listen to this one podcast, the Tony Kornheiser podcast. He's PTI, so if anyone watches PTI,
yeah,
he's got a great podcast that's like basically local to DC, but then like kind of extends out to the country. and I could listen to them talk about the Red or the Washington football team all day long, just like the problem with an owner who thinks that they should run the team. Like I love those, like James Harden going to Brooklyn, like to me is a fascinating story. Like Kyrie just disappearing, fascinating.
Terrifies me as a Knicks fan, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it's also like, I don't know. When I think of like the Brooklyn Nets, I'm like, don't you need fans first before you can like buy the farm to have like 2 good seasons? Like how much, like, I don't know if you retain fans after those 2 good seasons.
I think they're taking the Field of Dreams approach here.
They're trying to win now.
I know, but like you win now for who? That's what I'm wondering.
That's the question. What's your favorite sports talk radio show though? Is it the Tony Kornheiser show or is it something else?
Probably the Tony Kornheiser show.
Okay.
Or I'm from Boston, outside of Boston, like WEEI. Like I used to be a big fan of like all those shows way back when. But like I listen to like Bill Simmons. I like his stuff. Like I'll listen to, I was just listening to like a lot of Ringer Network stuff. I enjoy their stuff.
Cool.
Nice.
All right, so that pretty much does it. This is your chance to offer any other nerdy tendencies that we have not yet mentioned. Perhaps something that kind of getting into your the themes of your previous podcasts. If we're talking about dating, maybe some dorky tendencies that you would not be willing to share on a first date.
Ooh, I'm a big proponent of sharing most things on a first date, but I definitely like reality TV is like a definite interest of mine. Like I like any stupid show, I'll give it a chance. I have opinions on all of them. There's some reality shows I hate, but then there's some that I definitely like love.
Gotcha. Just briefly going to check in with the judges, and I'm hearing that you're in, Jared.
I did it.
You are a member of Binge Society. Congratulations. I don't know where this ranks amongst your achievements, but I imagine it is high.
Huge.
I imagine it's probably not even on the list.
No, it's on the list. I want the T-shirt now. That's what I want.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think we can make that happen.
We can make it happen.
I think we can make that happen. Yeah.
For sure.
Cool.
For sure. All right. Cool.
Moving right along. So if you're listening to this, you might be like, why is Jared Freid on the Binge Society podcast? Interesting story about how I met this man. I don't know, was it 8 or 10 years ago when I was living in New York? I had an open mic. I was an aspiring comedian, and it was at Nightingale's on 2nd and 13th or something like that.
Yeah, great. And right next to Professor Tom's.
Yeah, it doesn't exist anymore, but it was my shot at like starting open mic. And Jared used to freak on my mic. Him, Mark Norman, Suba, Corinne Fisher, just a bunch of people that are like their own, comedy monoliths. And that's where he met. And you were at a show, and I was just hanging out with my girl, and I bumped into him, and I was like, hey, what's up, dude? And you killed. And I was like, yo, man, listen, I'm just trying to do a podcast. I was living in Sweden for a while, so it's like I was just like out. That was a mistake, but I'm back now.
That was in 8 years.
Everyone has careers, and I'm like, hey, man, give me 5 minutes. But it's all good.
Do you consider that a mistake? I remember when you left for Sweden, because we're Facebook friends, and I remember you had the mic, and the mic was great. I loved going to it because it was like a fun atmosphere. It was the whole bar too, so it wasn't like we weren't like pushed to a corner, or like
they gave us the night.
You give it the night, and like you couldn't get in a situation where like the bar people would be like, the game's on, shut up. Like it was like our spot. And I like that a lot of people went, you could go and you had a positive way about you, which is tough to find, I think, at that point of starting comedy. Like I think when you first start, everyone has like a false idea of like how funny they are, what they should be doing, or what people should be doing. And you're young, you're like, you have like, maybe you get judgy. And I think there was a great atmosphere that you had at that mic that made people want to go there and want to have fun. And I remember you went to Sweden.
I did my first mic out there, and that was like my first experience doing comedy. And then it wasn't until I went to other mics that I realized how fucking lucky and how supportive and positive of an atmosphere that was.
Oh, they're soul crushing. I mean, they're ridiculous. You're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I just remember you went to Sweden. I was like, that is the coolest thing in the entire world. I always thought that was like so cool because it's like comedy is becoming bigger. It is becoming more international. Like stand-up comedy is an American art form. Like
Oh yeah, most
now
definitely.
now you see that like world of Netflix thing and they do a special from every country and you're like,
Yeah.
man, that is, I always wondered like what that was like and like, but effectively I would think you're starting a scene kind of.
Yeah, I was joking. It wasn't a mistake. I'm glad I went. I've learned
Yeah,
so much, but it was, I just have that kind of not buyer's remorse, but that kind of like, oh shit, what if, not as
sure.
a
FOMO.
regret, because like literally everyone that did that mic at Nightingale's, like like they're all, and it's different because if I go back to Sweden, I get treated like you guys get treated here, like you can just drop into a mic or you get booked more. But it was dope. I was young and I was in love, so I moved. And yeah, like I got pretty high up in the comedy like community there like pretty quickly, because it's very very small. It's just like
Yeah.
Stockholm, and then like that's it. And it was dope. It was great, and there wasn't too many English comics there, so I was kind of a novelty when I moved there. Now there's an expat I mean, now there's no comedy anywhere, but now,
Sure.
like before the corona times, it was really really good, and I got in with some like really good people there, so it was dope. But then my life kind of exploded there, and shit hit the fan here, and I had to move back home for like family emergency reasons. And
Uh-huh.
it's just like seeing you guys, I was like, holy shit! Like it was just like, this is kind of a nostalgia, like holy shit, these guys. And it's good because you want to see
Yeah.
your peers do well, and like you're doing like you found your niche, and you're fucking doing it. You know what I mean?
Of course. But I always, I do remember when you left thinking like, wow, that's such like a cool thing to
Oh,
go
thanks,
and
man.
do in another country. And like I got to perform in London. And when I did that, like I was like, this is the coolest. Like
Yeah.
to be somewhere different like that and like ask them like, hey, do these work? Like I would be on stage being like, does this word even make sense here? Like, like it's like we're speaking English,
Very
but like
good.
it's
Very good
yeah,
line.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like and just like getting
Good
used
shit.
to a crowd there, like yeah, and it's like to be able to go around, across the world with the jokes in your pocket is a very cool experience. So
Yeah.
I think that's very cool.
Once Stockholm comes opens up again, man, like I got some context. We'll talk turkey, but it's a
Uh,
dope. When it was the scene, like before the times, it's you can get some scratch. You can tour Sweden. They have a little like tour thing. You can go to the West Coast. You go to Gothenburg. You go like to Malmo, and you can even go more up north if you want to go Norway. But it was cool, man. I'm so glad I learned so much, like
I'm
just being able
sure.
to perform around like that EU area, London, been to Estonia. But anyway, talking about comedy and stuff, I want to know, since we already kind of talked about how you got your bones, I'm assuming open mics and stuff. I'm more interested in like when do you, and for those of you who don't know about this is like more of like a comic meta thing, but you think you're doing jokes and you think it's in your voice, but then like you kind of progress. For me, it's like every 2.5 years and your voice changes drastically. I want
Mhm.
to know when you found your voice.
Well, I think I'm still looking. I think like sometimes I'm sure you guys can all understand. You're doing like a bit, and you're like, and you're doing it the way you're like, this is how I should be doing every bit, and you're like, but then you're stuck because you're like, I still gotta fill 45 minutes. I'm just waiting for those 3 minutes where I feel like I'm in this like, comedy high zone. And so like again, like so there are points where I'm like, I get to that part and then I kind of leave it. It's like I feel it. I'm in that hot zone. I know this is very vague, but like,
No, I
there's
know what you
certain
mean. You're like you kind of not leave your body, but you're in a state where you're in your pocket. Like you're like, this
Mhm.
is it.
Flow
This is
state.
I'm in, yeah, flow
these
state. Like I'm in the vibe.
this is the subject I want to be talking about. This is the way I want to be talking about the subject. I'm doing all the physicality I want to be involved with this subject. Wow, it's all here. And then you kind of leave that zone when you go to a different subject because you're like, the joke wasn't as well written, isn't there yet. So I find myself trying to get to that with every joke. And it's like, I need a premise that I like talking about, something I'm actually passionate about, and something that I can put physicality into. And if I can get all those three, I'm happy. And if I'm like not moving on stage, it's a problem. Like I love performing. So like,
Me too. I love the
right?
performance of it. Like if I'm not like if I'm not one I'm no shade to like, monotone, like that's a whole different
Sure.
style, like one-liner comedians, that's a whole different art form, but I gotta because I'm nervous. I gotta move. I gotta do something. I'm a big guy. Like for me, just to like take away all my tools, like it's like, nah, I gotta move around and perform.
Yeah.
And I'm like a theater guy, so it's like that's like in my
Yeah.
blood,
And for what little experience I have, the one like good compliment I'll always get is like my energy is like using that physicality, like you say, Yemi, to sort of cut through the nerves.
Yeah.
And also it just like makes me feel more me and gets me into that zone.
Yeah, and people, it's the kind of comedy I like watching. Like I love Kevin James. Like I love
Yeah,
the
yeah.
small stuff. That special, if you go watch it, every joke has a move.
Yeah.
Every joke has something, movement, that makes every joke three-dimensional. And it's like, listen, again, like you said, like this isn't just because I love chocolate doesn't mean I hate vanilla. Like
Exactly.
I can
yeah.
hear,
We can like both and appreciate both for what they are.
I can appreciate both. That isn't me. I
Yeah.
go up there. I want to dance. I want to talk to the crowd. I want to have fun. I want them to have as fun. Yeah, I want it to be a party. I want to feel
Move
the
your
room
hips.
shake. Yeah, and sometimes
Your
you
act
get in your
is
head
equal parts hips and nips.
that hips and nips. That's what I'm doing. And
Move your hips just like this.
sometimes you get in your head, like I'm like, oh man, like does that translate? Like right now, I taped some stand up to go on YouTube, and I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, I've put up stand up clips in the past, and my audience is a audience that knows I'm funny, but I do funny in a lot of different ways. So I think
Yeah.
like when I tell them to come to a show, they're not stand up fans. Like the people that follow me are generally like fans of funny, just fans of like, oh, he does this Bachelor thing. He does this thing. I think he does stand up. Like, but then when I tell them, hey, come to the show, they come and they're like, whatever it is, we're just happy you're doing it. You're in town. Like a lot of them don't even know. I have at every club I go to, I'll have people go, yeah, people are asking if you're still on the show because there's openers. And
yeah.
I think that's funny and great because it's like, I don't have the type of person that comes in like, well, let's see if he's as good as, Gaffigan. It's like, I don't have that type of audience.
He's good, but he's no Gaffigan. It's like, wait,
well, let's see if he can spin a yarn. Like, I don't have that audience.
Yeah.
I'm a six top comic. Like, there's six women at a table having fun, and they want to, joke around and kind of like dance to the music a little bit. And like,
yeah.
I love that type of comedy. So, there's a piece of me that's like, there's a piece of me that's like, oh, maybe I should, do better. You want to be a better, I think comics, we're all hard on ourselves. We all want to be better preparers, and I could be a better preparer. But again, like going in and being like, and screaming and yelling and being fun and playing, Gloria Estefan to come out and yelling at the people who aren't even tapping their toes. Like, that's what I love to do.
Dopeness. I think we're gonna move to the listener emails now. Take it away, Winston.
All right, and now it is time for the listener mailbag segment, and we're gonna start first with Katie. All right, so Katie wanted to know, Jared, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of dating advice in your mid to late 20s, what would it be?
Be selfish. Be selfish. Because when you're selfish, you're honest. And when you're honest, you don't waste your time or anyone else's time. So I think and selfish doesn't mean to be mean. I think that word selfish gets caught up as like, of course, we all have our own understanding of what that word is. We've all called someone selfish because they disappointed us. But in dating, like, be selfish because you won't be able to be that for the rest of your life. And when you're selfish, that's you being yourself, your most self. And you're basically saying to someone like, this is what you're getting and take it or leave it. And I think like there's someone out there that's going to take it because your selfish is going to fit their selfish. But I think if everyone in their late 20s was a little bit more selfish, they would have they would get through relationships that aren't right quicker, and they'd find the right one much faster.
I like it.
Can I have an adjunct to that question? Do you feel like people are so just not just enthralled, but it's such a throwaway culture now that with the proliferation of social media and dating apps that people always think they can find someone better, so people don't even care to work through like a relationship that might be like the selfishest work, but one hiccup and you're like, you know what, I'm back on Hinge, I'm back on Tinder, I'm back on Grindr or whatever. Do you feel like that comes into equation with dating with like, millennials or Gen Zers?
I think that comes in the equation. I think like I think with that you have to be totally okay with losing people. Like that person who didn't want to like fight through and give it a shot, they weren't there to give it a shot anyways. They weren't thinking on the level that you were thinking on. Like I think like options create problems, but they also create the solution at the same time. Like somewhat, I think if someone's like just willing to like walk away from the negotiation table of a relationship, then they're not really looking for the same things as you, or you might not be the match for them. Maybe you think you're the match for them, but they are like, I don't see it. And it's like, you just can't force that stuff. And so again, I don't think options are a problem if you're totally okay with yourself. Like there's nothing else you can do.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Sage advice indeed. Just
True
curious.
indeed.
Does your sagacity does that come
Absolutely.
just from your own experience, or have you actually, with your time with You Up and your current podcast, have you actually done like proper research? As it
No
were,
research.
just field research.
Just
Amen,
feel
brother. Just
well.
life. Life is the biggest researcher you can find,
Well, I
right?
try to be as honest as possible on the podcast with the giving dating advice, but also try to be vulnerable because I think the one thing that I'm okay with is saying that I've been the bad guy. Like I've been that person for someone, like all of us have. And if you think you haven't, then you married your high school sweetheart or you're lying,
Yeah.
and it's like, I've been the person who didn't text back. I've been the person that's like hovered around. I've been the person that just wanted to have sex and maybe acted like I was in it for more than that. Like all of those things are like very kind of dirty to tell and don't feel good to tell, but like they're within anybody. Like everyone that's in a relationship that you think looks good on Instagram wasn't great with someone else. Like someone else is looking at that picture being like, yeah, that guy fucking sucks. Like
Yeah. There's definitely
Take
an
him if
inner
you want him.
fuckboy within all of
Yeah.
us that has come
Yeah.
out
yeah. So
sometime or another.
I think being open and honest about and I think the You Up podcast is a great place for it because it's like, listen, I sometimes it's about giving the icky truth that is hard to say.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so let's move on to our next question. Karen asks, if you could date anyone from a TV show, which character would you date?
Ooh,
Is it Rosario Dawson as
Rosario,
Ahsoka?
that's what it was. But she has to be dressed as the ear woman Jedi.
Rosario Dawson in cosplay. Meow.
Yeah, that's
Ow.
there will be no makeup removal. We need it all the time. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know who I would date. I was such a fan of JoJo from The Bachelorette. I was she was the Bachelorette like a few seasons back. I just thought she was such a great person in that role. She and very much my type, very good looking. But I mean, yeah, I guess that would be if I could give the.
Would you
I don't
have
know
her
if
in
the-
cons as well?
Yes, everyone's in cosplay at all times.
I thought that was. I
That's-
figured that was
when-
implied.
Awesome. All right, so the final question comes from Lauren. Lauren wants to know what your favorite food is, and also what's your favorite restaurant in New York, and what's your go-to order at that restaurant?
I would say I'm probably a Chinese food guy. Just, I love sitting down for Chinese food. I love like family style. Everyone takes a bunch, whatever. Fried rice is my favorite. I love a fried rice. I love a house fried rice with everything in it, pork, chicken, all the vegetables and stuff. I would say my favorite restaurant, maybe not New York City, but like Benihana going to like a Japanese steakhouse. Ooh,
Nice.
there is nothing better than that to me in the world. Like I love the fried rice, and when they go around the table and they give a little extra and they give it to you, oh,
And all the
that
pomp and
is-
circumstance, very, very thrilling.
I
Is there a
love it.
Benihana
That
in
sounds
New?
awesome.
Is there a Benihana in New York?
you can't get a reservation. Like it is packed when it's open.
Oh,
It is
shit.
packed every night. There's another one that's like not a Benihana, but like, you know, same deal in Queens that my brother and I went to once. But that is like, I'm in Florida right now. I'm at my parents' place in Boca Raton, Florida, and my girlfriend and I went to a Benihana for Christmas, and it was like, I was like, you gave me the Christmas gift that I would like. This is the best thing ever. Like I am such a fan.
Nice. I heard also
That's
recently in one of your stand-up, your album on Spotify, that you've moved to Harlem. So have you discovered the ghetto Chinese?
I love the Harlem Chinese. It
Good
is
Chinese, yo.
very. I
Places like
I-
Taste Good, those sorts of
Well,
establishments.
those
Golden
places.
King.
I mean, those places they deliver, and you're like, this is like so gluttonous. It's like crazy. Like
There's an old Chinese man in the bike in 20-degree
Oh
weather
my god!
with
And
one
they-
order of like spare ribs. You're like, Jesus Christ.
and it's all like formed together. Like it comes in that styrofoam.
Oh yeah, with the red like dancing dragons. I'm not
Oh
being
my
racist.
God.
I'm not being racist. By the way.
No, this
This is a
but
thing.
This
it's
is a
almost
thing.
like one piece of food. Like the whole, like if you got rice, chicken, and an egg roll together, it's just all one formed one thing. Like it's almost like they made it, put it in the fridge, and then took it out, and they were like, "Here's your food." Like because it's like it has that delicious thing of like the grease and fats coming together. Like that
MSG,
only
baby.
happens after it's been in the fridge for a while. Like if you have Chinese food the next day, it feels like all the Chinese food in Harlem was cooked a day before. And it's
That's why you should not eat Chinese food post.
That's the
like,
secret.
Just like throw it out because you're gambling then.
Absolutely.
You're gambling. You know?
No,
That's
man.
that extra
Go with it.
grease.
Go with it. Go with your heart.
That
And
extra
I think that's the
leftover grease,
secret.
man.
And there's something. I think there's something about cooking food behind bulletproof glass that really adds an extra layer of flavor. That's kind of going the way of the
It
dodo,
unseals
though,
the
with
flavor. The
with
bulletproof
gentrification, though.
It seals it. The bulletproof.
That's the
glass.
thing. The smoke from the food comes back into it. Yeah.
It just recirculates back inside. It's like you just
Secret
point
of,
at it. And I just love
convection.
the number. I love the ordering system. Just give me a 19.
Yeah,
Give me
Love
it's
it.
all part-
Love it.
numbers.
It's all part of the
Give
experience.
me that
you know?
Well,
picture right there. And make
it's
sure
funny-
it looks like that. All right.
You know, it's.
Oh, I'm coming
maybe
back.
I want to look like that. It's funny because in my hometown there was a place that operated in the same way as the Harlem Chinese food places, and we used to go there all the time. But it was like a suburban place, but it was called, what was it called? But they had number one, number two. It was built the same way as a Harlem. So to me, when I was told that the Chinese food places in Harlem it's different than when you go downtown. I'm like, no, that's the same as the one I knew. So but we used to go to it all the bring it home. It comes in the styrofoam thing. It's all one gelatinous thing. Love it.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, man.
Shout out Golden Number One Kitchen. on
That's right, that's right.
135,
So with our
Broadway.
with our remaining time left, we got about 10 minutes. Let's talk a little bit about The Bachelor and what's going on this season. Of course, Matt James is The Bachelor this year. He's the first.
Is he the first black guy?
first black guy?
He
First-
is.
You know, he's
He's mixed.
race.
He's like
He's
your
mixed
boy,
race, but he's
you know,
black.
So he's
part of the
like
mixed
black
gang.
asterisk.
He's black. All right.
He's part of
But
the
I'm
mixed.
saying, but all right, listen.
He's mixed race, but he's clearly a black guy.
No, I'm
Part
not
of the
saying
mixed
he's not.
race
All right,
gang.
I'm not gonna
Well,
go
yeah,
there.
there would definitely be a different reaction if I were on there and they put me
If
as the
Danny
first
was on,
black
people
bachelor.
he's not.
Doesn't count. Not having it.
No, he's Puerto Rican.
I'd like to
Get
announce
outta here.
I'd like to announce to the listeners I'm still here, but I have backed out of this conversation.
He's letting 3 black guys talk about this. Smart.
You guys
He's a
take it
smart
from me.
man. He's a smart man.
Yeah.
I'm just
So
saying.
what
Like,
are
I
your-
saw a picture of him, and he's a pretty boy. He's pretty. You know what? I'm hating on him.
He's a handsome guy. He's a handsome guy.
Oh, he's
handsome.
gorgeous.
No,
I mean,
Yeah, he's gorgeous. Yeah.
women are going
to
crazy for
suck
how
him
gorgeous
from the back.
he's.
No, all right.
And I've asked multiple people, I'm like, is this the best looking Bachelor? Everyone says best looking Bachelor of all time.
All right.
Wow.
Hey,
Yeah.
we winning.
High praise.
you go.
High praise. Yeah, I did not
Right.
feel particularly comfortable watching this
With
with
your
my
lady?
girlfriend. There was a lot of misappropriations of affection, a lot of hand holding.
Wait, what? You were getting the scraps?
Well, you know, just like a lot of like, why does she want to hold my hand now that his shirt is off and showering?
Yeah.
Like, why
The
does
Matt
why-
James
I'll
runoff.
Take those
Exactly.
take the scraps, man. Take the horny scraps.
I don't need it, man. I don't need it.
There are scenes where he takes his shirt off and you're like, I gotta change my life. I gotta go to the gym. I gotta figure shit out. Like,
You know, I'm doing 10 push-ups right now.
yeah,
I can't chop that log in one chop.
yeah.
Take me
He's
at least
also
three.
like a fitness dude. Like he's like a super high energy. Like
Oh,
you could
man.
tell like the
Must
type
be
of
good in
guy
the
that like
bedroom.
they'd be like, yeah, of course, let's wake up 6 a.m. Let's do a run. You'd be like,
Oh,
okay,
God
okay,
damn it.
relax. I said, we'll try something. You know, like
He seems like a super active guy. I know you posted a clip. He was like, going out for a jog. He's on the Peloton bike. He's pumping weights. So, what do you think about him as a person for The Bachelor? And also, what do you think about the contestants this year? And do you have any predictions of what you think might happen on this season?
So this season's so different because usually the Bachelor, the Bachelorette was on the season prior. He, I guess, had applied to be on the Bachelorette as a contestant, and then they were like, "You're the Bachelor." They like didn't even put him on that show. They're like, "We're making you the Bachelor." So usually we'd have background on how we felt about him. Right now, every woman is like, "He's the hottest, best thing that's ever happened in the show." I'm sitting there going, yeah, he's hot. But I don't know what he's like as a lead. So I like him as a lead, but then there's sometimes where it's like, I don't know him enough to make, like, I don't know where it's going to go. So he's been very thoughtful with the contestants. He's asked questions that are way more interested than any other Bachelor has ever really asked. Like he'll say things to them that like, you're like, wow, this is like really in depth. Like he's into this. So like, I don't know. So I'm having fun watching him. The contestants he has, like the women are obsessed with him. You can tell. And you can tell that the women that are on the show, like, it's actually interesting. I've been thinking about this a lot where it's like, these women are all like 21 to 28, let's say, like, or that's like the average age, let's call it 27. You could tell they have dealt with such garbage dudes that just the idea that like this successful, good looking guy is even like open to the idea of a serious relationship. They're acting as if it's the last flight out of Saigon. Like it is like, oh, I just hope he understands that it's like, and you're like, is this happening because
Right.
these guys, like, is this happening because these women are all beautiful? All the contestants are beautiful. Are they just getting like DMs from guys like, let's meet up, let's hang at my place? Like, and it's like, wow, he's like going on a date. Like, I'm wondering if the idea of dating is so gone that this guy dating makes him like, he's jumping the lowest bar of all time. Like
Yeah.
it just kind of feels like that.
You made reservations? Like, yeah, baby.
He put on a helmet on a woman to help her on the ATV, and they were like, "Oh my god, I wish he would put a helmet on me." I'm like,
Jesus,
it's not like
who
he
did
like
you date?
kicked her aside. I was like, "Here you go, bitch." Like it wasn't like
Get
how
on.
are you being? Yeah,
What
how are these?
psychopaths have these women been with?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you begin
They
to
did.
wonder, like in this Instagram age where someone can just like, like guys are approaching Instagram like a dating app, but the dating app is you're hot, what's up, and it's
Yeah.
like no.
Dick pic.
Yeah, so I'm saying I would assume that these women are all so hot that they're seeing the worst in people, and then they're getting a glimpse of like this really good guy who's gorgeous and nice, and it's like it does feel like they're like fawning, like it is. It feels
Yeah.
like it's the last guy on earth. Kind
It's definitely a palpable difference from did some research myself watching the Bachelorette, not the previous contestant, but the one that was over in like 4 episodes with Dale. Like I did not buy for 1 second that like all those dudes were really that into her. It seems like they were just like putting it on. Even Dale, I was like, I'm not so sure about this guy. But yeah, you can definitely tell for this one. It's
even
real.
the men is different also because it did like even the men that stayed there for Tasha, they were like, she's pretty awesome. Yeah, she's hot. Like the women that are there for Matt James are like, he's the best thing that's ever happened to me. You're like, okay, relax,
Yeah. Would have been
Right.
interesting though to see Matt and Dale go head to head in that Bachelor. I think that Bachelorette might have had an actual contest. I don't know.
But like a
Dual
fight,
Bachelor.
they should do that, man.
Maybe.
Fight to the
Ooh, that's actually a
They-
good. Yeah, I like
fight
that
to the
idea.
vagina. That's what they should
They
call it.
did-
Like the season finale.
They did a wrestling match on The Bachelorette, and they had the men grease up. And one guy was like in a
Ooh.
rivalry with another guy, and then he goes, "Yeah, my knee's been wonky today," and he bailed, and it was like the worst moment. Yeah.
Oh
Ooh,
no!
Cop
I hope
out.
that man
He
did
didn't
not
want
get
to
a
wrestle
rose.
to the ground and submitted. He didn't want to get submitted as a
He
man.
copped
That's
out.
right.
He
National-
copped
Could
out.
you imagine if he got submitted as a man?
Oh,
Like
man.
all of his friends, like you're no friend of mine. John.
Say, uncle.
Just like,
Tapped out on national TV, man.
Yeah.
Fucking bitch. Too bad. Too bad. Keeping in line with our Bachelor questions, just curious to know, since you're clearly a huge fan, a leader of Bachelor Nation, I dare say. So, how does Jared Freid approach the Bachelorette as a contestant? Maybe you have a
Ooh.
significant other of your own. How are you coming out of that limo? How are you coming after that first impression rose, Jay Reezy?
So I actually, one of the women did what I was going to do. What my dream has always been to come out being carried by a bunch of people while I'm in a robe. And then I hold out. And then as they walk, they pull up to her and they lower me, and I put out my hand that has a huge ring on it, and I have her kiss it. And then I go, "See you inside." And then
they carry you
carry me
inside.
in. Yeah. And then
Coming in on the litter.
night,
Yeah.
the rest of the night, they carry me around the whole night. There's not,
Eating
That's
you
amazing.
grapes.
yeah. There's not
Look at
one
this
moment
hedonist.
where they're like, we're waiting for the roses, and there's just 7 men holding me up, and I'm like, on there. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Doing the confessionals, everything is done in the litter.
That's
Everything,
amazing.
everything held.
One
throughout
of the
entire
guys
night.
holding pee, like pee in your pants, peasant. I'm like,
Every time I'm on camera, I'm just Cleopatra, just
Yeah.
perfect.
Love it. Love it.
So
Any
nice.
particular approaches if your significant other was actually the contestant? What's the way that you would get to her heart?
Wait, what do you
I
mean? Like if
would-
his girl was a contestant?
If I was like,
oh, okay.
if I was like pining for like going for her as she was the Bachelorette and I was one of the contestants,
Indeed.
I would. So they do this thing where like people will be like, "I've set up these drinks for you." I would set up like a Chinese food dinner. Like you have to, you have to do something funny but also personal. So you have to everything on The Bachelor because it's a quick introduction. So you have to connect, that you have to tell them you love your family while also like poking fun at yourself. So I would put out a family Chinese food dinner and I'd be like, let's have our own Sunday night. This is what a Sunday night with me is, and put together a plate together and sit and talk over that. And then because what you see is the most successful, you have to get through the first night of the huge amount of people. So you have to connect in some way. And it's like, oh, Chinese food guy. Like this happens all the time. So it's like, oh, that was, she's from the same state as me, woman, you know? So I would do something like that.
Okay, all right.
I want to see the Bachelor in the Hood, man. You guys
Bachelor
ever
in the
realize
Hood.
that?
I want-
Like do a
I
Bachelor like Chicago, South Side, or like.
This is a
Harlem
new stepping
90s
stone, I
Bachelor.
think, Yemi. They're giving us a
No, I'm
mixed
just saying, like,
black
poor people
lead,
fall in
one
love
step at a
too.
time.
That shit would be good television, but it would be sad.
I want every type of Bachelor. Like, I think that's crazy that we don't have like just every single type.
Yeah, like do they do the Bachelor like in other countries, like Bachelor?
Oh,
One?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's an Australian one. I know they do them like, there's other countries that have it for sure. I think there's,
Oh yeah, you're right.
every now and again, there's a story that comes out from one that's abroad, but they're out there.
In Sweden, they had one called Bonden Sockerfru. It's in Swedish, but it's called like Farmer Searches Wife. That's like the literal translation.
I'm in.
And it was just
I'm
like
in.
Swedish farmer, like I'm looking for a good fruit for the harvest. You're like, the fuck is this shit, man?
Swedish farmers only. Love it.
Yes.
Thanks for Burley though, man. I'm like, I hit that, yeah, man. And also,
Yeah.
also grains.
Yes.
Also grains.
Yeah, and also it's time to wrap up just about. Really quickly though, I wanted to get your thoughts on Love is Blind on Netflix. What did you think of that as compared to The Bachelor and Bachelorette?
To me, Love is Blind is the show, like it's The Bachelor is Tinder, Bumble, dating apps. Love is Blind is the 3 months after that show. Like that, it kind of fits it perfectly. Like it kind of, I thought that show was a different show where it's showing you what a relationship is in those first 3 months. Whereas The Bachelor's like meeting people, like getting to know you, quick connection. Okay, we send The Bachelor off. They're going to be engaged. Now what happens? I thought that was Love is Blind. Love is Blind, the premise of like not seeing your partner getting engaged before you even see them. That was like the shtick, but the show was really started when they went on the honeymoons and they went on the trips. And then you start seeing like, and they were talking about sex and whether they were pleased or not. And their cell phones were brought into the, the
Finances.
picture. Yeah. And it was like,
Oh yeah, that girl with the,
interesting.
what was her name? The girl with the finances. She had like $10,000 in debt.
And they got married.
They
Like
did.
in real life?
They did. Yeah, they did.
They were like
Sight
one of the ones they
Sucker
needed.
move. Sucker move. Sucker move, man. You
Yeah.
ain't got no bitcoins, bitch. What the fuck's going on?
And
It
of
wasn't
course,
doing
season
good
two,
back then. It's doing good now.
Season 2 is coming. It's coming from Netflix. Hopefully this year. We'll see.
I also thought there's like corollary to dating in the pandemic. Like what you notice at Love is Blind is all the men came out looking pretty good. The women didn't look great because the women seemed to be going after the goal of an engagement, the goal of marriage. The men were put in a position where there were no options, so they were actually listening and giving it a shot, whereas maybe they wouldn't have in the past. So it's like, it's just like, I'm not saying men are better than women. I'm saying the setup was more, it was actually a better setup for men. So that's why you're seeing a lot of people right now are like, yeah, we met in March and it like fast tracked. And you're like, yeah, because you're in your own version of Love is Blind.
That is very true.
During the pandemic,
it kind of took out options. Yeah, like you couldn't really. I mean, you could. I've heard comedians, women and men are like dating, but it's like it must have been like super hard opposed to like if you already kind of, meeting someone and like I met my lady in the pandemic, but we were hanging out before and it kind of just happened. But then yeah, it's like you're in a bubble, and I'm sure shit will change once like if life ever goes back to normal. But yeah, it kind of like I have to learn this person because I'm not gonna go on Tinder now.
Yeah, and it's like also if you made the move to do a FaceTime date, that's already a more zoned in date. Like,
oh, that's intense. Yeah, just staring.
You can't even fuck. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, show me your nipple at the end? Like, that's not gonna happen.
And now it's time, Like,
yeah. So it's like, hey, want to get a little weird? I've been drinking too much. Oh, here's my nipple. Like, you're not gonna do that. Like, so as far as like what you could get out of it, like if a guy was on a FaceTime date, he's there for it. He's interested. Yeah. There's a level of it. I would say that's a level of interest above going on a date.
Oh yeah, most definitely, absolutely, yeah.
And they just like the politics of the pandemic prevent you from like dating around because it's like, well, why aren't you talking for the last 3 days? Oh, I'm out doing fucking what?
And a lot of people were like reaching out to exes because those were people that like have said yes before. Like when there's less people to say yes, you go to the old ones who did.
Yeah, I do not envy those.
Sleep with the devil,
environment.
The devil you don't know.
Absolutely. Well, Jared Freid, thank you so much for being on the show. Where can our listeners find you on all your social media?
What you got any projects or any shows or any Zooms? Like, drop it right now.
At Jared Freid on Instagram. That's where I do everything. That's the center of my wheel. And yeah, listen, podcasts, all that stuff. But like at Jared Freid, if you want to check me out, that's where I put out my wares.
Nice, man. Nice.
Word.
Awesome, man.
Big bird.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of fun, man.
Yeah, so much fun. Of course, find us as usual. Binge Society Podcast at gmail.com. You can find me, Winston Brewington, at Radio Win on Instagram.
You can find me, Danny Bronner, under the name Danny Bronner on Instagram as well, and Laces Out Dan 485 on the Twitter.
And you can find me at Yummy Comedy on Instagram and Facebook. Yep, I'm still using it. What of it? What up? Get it done.
It's still around.
Thanks, J Train, for doing this, man. We appreciate
Yeah,
you,
man.
man.
Thank you for
Indeed.
having
Yeah,
me.
dude.
This
Stay
was,
safe in this 2021. Shit is still
Yes,
crazy in these
sir.
streets.
Happy New Year
you
to
guys
you.
too. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And sorry for
Thank you.
moving the time around.
No,
Yeah,
it's all
bro,
good.
you're fine, man.
Thank you so much, man. We really
Awesome, guys.
appreciate it. Enjoy Florida.
Thank you.
Stay safe out there. Holy shit.